And let's see, it's the Oxyrhynchus Papyrus. Translated, it reads, "Except ye make the Sabbath a real Sabbath, ye shall not see the Father." Now, that's pretty interesting. Apparently, this thing was found roughly in 1898 and translated, and the note that it said about keeping the Sabbath a real Sabbath is "sabbatize the Sabbath" in Greek, which means truly make it a Sabbath rest. You know, it doesn't say any day in 7, as a lot of people assert. Even back in 200 AD, the Egyptians knew which day the 7th day was. Matter of fact, they called it Pi Sabbaton. I'll get into the languages in a future video. Now, it's very clear, especially if you watch some of the other videos in this series, that the early Christian churches were Sabbath-keeping churches. I mentioned Corinth in particular, but that was not limited to just that church. And again, I invite you to look at some of the earlier videos in this series, and you'll get all the information you need to firmly be able to come to that conclusion. Now, they weren't confused about what day. They weren't confused about, can I just keep any day in 7? They intentionally kept the 7th-day Sabbath because it's part of the commandment. It is a way of showing that they are a covenant people with the God of the Bible. And frankly, it identified everybody that was around them. They knew that those people were Christians because they kept the 7th-day Sabbath and took hold of the covenant with God, Yahweh. Now, they understood, like we do, or at least most of us do, that there is the keeping of the 7th-day Sabbath, that it has a spiritual rest that it alludes to, and there's also an eschatological reason for keeping it. The earlier churches were not ignorant of this either, but yet they still kept the day. Okay? Understanding the spiritual and eschatological reasons for Sabbath, okay, doesn't abrogate the fact that you still should keep the day if you are taking hold of God's covenant. Another author by the name of Jeremy Taylor, and he is a historian, wrote heavily about the 2nd century AD, wrote, "The primitive Christians did keep the Sabbath of the Jews. Therefore the Christians, for a long time together, did keep their conventions upon the Sabbath, in which portions of the law were read, and this continued till the time of the Laodicean Council." Now, we'll talk about the Council of Laodicea later, but it's landmark, truly. There is a Messianic Jewish scholar. I don't necessarily say that I agree with everything that he has to teach, but he has some insights that are truly wonderful. His name is Monte Judah, and he is quoted as saying, and I love this quote because it speaks volumes. He says, "Don't tell me who your God is. Show me which commandments you follow, and I'll know who your God is." That has very far-reaching meaning to it. We can't just, again, take any day that we want. We cause confusion, not only in ourselves and in our system of beliefs, but we confuse the people around us who understand what the Bible actually teaches. There are even atheists out there and pagans that read the Bible, and one of the things that they love to poke fun at the Christians about is because even they can read it plain as day right in front of their faces, is that the 7th-day Sabbath is for people in the New Covenant. Even they can understand that. They poke fun at Christians because Christians keep Sunday or one day in 7, and they know how ridiculous, frankly, that position is, because it can't be biblically supported, and that's the problem. It can't be biblically supported. Now, if we think we can change Yeshua's Sabbath to any day that we see fit, do you realize that we make ourselves Antichrist by doing that? By the Bible's own definition. Matter of fact, I spoke about this in an earlier video, but let's again look at Daniel 7 verse 25. This is in relation to the little horn power, which we know is becomes the Antichrist power in the New Testament. But Daniel 7:25 says, "And he shall speak great words against the Most High, and shall wear out the saints of the Most High, and think to change times and laws." and they shall be given into his hand until a time and times and the dividing of time. Now let's see, the Sabbath is both. The Sabbath is both a time and a law. So if we think we can change, alter, abrogate God's times and laws, the Sabbath being both of those, we, by the Bible's definition, make ourselves Antichrist. Not necessarily the Antichrist, which is something I'll talk about later, but we make ourselves an Antichrist influence. That's not a very smart thing to do as a Christian that claims to follow Yeshua, Jesus. By the way, if we believe that Jesus changed the day, we make him Antichrist by the same exact logic and reasoning. And of course, that's ridiculous. I love using that word ridiculous because some of the stuff is just too ridiculous. Anyway, to go on with it, we know that there is no passage in the Bible anywhere that says that we can make the Sabbath any day that we want. Okay? Now, we do have warnings, however, about false teachers that will come and try to tell people that they can do false things. You know, they can follow these false teachings and false beliefs. We find that verse, one of them, in 2 Timothy chapter 4, verses 3 and 4. For the time will come, they will not endure sound doctrine, but after their own lusts shall they heap to themselves teachers, having itching ears, and they shall turn away their ears from the truth, and shall be turned unto fables. Let's look at this whole question from a different perspective for just a moment. In an earlier video, I mentioned that only God can make something holy. Alright? Now, if you doubt that statement, I ask you to consult your Bible, please, and show me even one passage where a human being was able to declare something to be holy, and it was recognized by God as such. Okay? Does not happen. Only God can make something holy. Look at the story with Moses and the burning bush. Here we have a plain bush out in the middle of the desert. Okay? It's a plain bush until God's presence shows up in it. And when that happens, what does God declare? Take off thy sandals, for you are standing on holy ground. It's because God's presence was there. Men cannot dictate where God's presence is going to be. Men do not make things holy. We can keep them holy by observing them, okay, by setting them aside, keeping them separated and distinguished from the common, but we don't make things holy, okay? We certainly can't make any one day in 7 holy. That's not Sabbath, okay? The commandment itself, again, in Exodus 20, reiterates, okay, in verses 1 and 11, that it's the Sabbath day, and that we are to keep it holy, okay, and that that day is the 7th day because the Lord blessed it and hallowed it. So the Lord made that day holy, okay? He didn't make the first day holy. He didn't make the second day holy. He didn't make the 3rd, 4th, 5th, or 6th days holy. In fact, he told us to work on those days. Again, all the days are accounted for in God's commandment, okay? Now, here comes a question, though. If we believe that we can determine our own Sabbath by simply, again, just picking one day in 7, are we now claiming to have the power to make something holy? Again, I don't see anywhere in the Bible where God allows us to do that. In fact, we learn just the opposite. In Luke 16:15, we read, And he said unto them, Ye are they which justify yourselves before men, but God knoweth your hearts. For that which is highly esteemed among men is abomination in the sight of God. You sure you still want to stick with your argument that you can determine which day your Sabbath is going to be? And you have the audacity, I'm sorry to use that word, but have the audacity to say that it's going to be okay and that it's biblically sound? No, it's not. Now, I'm familiar and know full well that one of the definitions of the word Sabbath means the sevens. Okay? I'm not overlooking that fact. But but contextually, whenever the Sabbath day is being talked about, it's always talked about in regards to being an exact specific day.